This is the W5FC repeater, PL110.9. MCOMnet, second Monday at 7 p.m., W5FC.
Mr. Chairman, I need to make myself very clear. If we uplink now, Skynet will be in control of your military.
But you'll be in control of Skynet, right?
That is correct, sir.
Skynet.
Does anyone need to use a repeater before we begin the 9 p.m. Skynet? Please come now. This is Whiskey Bravo 5 Oscar Zulu Lima. My name is Brenda, and I'll be your net control for this session of the DARC Skynet. Skynet is a weekly net called every Saturday night at 9 p.m. concerning the subject of astronomy. Our purpose is to help amateurs become more familiar with the nighttime and daytime sky, astronomy, and space in general. This net is open to all amateurs interested in this topic, and we encourage your participation, comments, and suggestions for this net. Stations with priority or emergency traffic may enter the net at any time by using the pro sign break and your call sign. Is there any emergency or priority traffic? This is a directed net. Please do not transmit without direction from net control. That would be me, and stations are reminded to ID at the end of your transmissions. This weekly net operates on 146.88 megahertz with a PL tone of 110.9, Check-ins via Echolink are also possible using the W5FC-R station ID or Echolink node 37247. Tonight's topics: astronomy charts, pictures, live audio links, and are available online. Go to www.w5fc.org right now for the complete list. Remember to tell others about this popular net. You can now check in to the net electronically by going to the website w5fc.org, look for tonight's announcement, and click on the hot link to check in. We will acknowledge you on the air, and don't worry, if you want to check in via voice, we will continue to do that as well over air and Echolink. And Tom, KE5ICX, normally you send me an email that has the electronic check-ins, and so maybe if you could do that in a bit. I'm going to take regular repeater traffic now, so please come with your name, call sign, name, and location. Please come now.
This is Whiskey 5 Golf Uniform Sierra. It's Gus, far, far northeast Dallas.
Well, we've got W5GUS, Gus. Welcome to the net, Gus. And let's do Echolink now if you want to do it through voice check-in. Go ahead.
Kilo Golf 5, Zulu Mike Golf, Joe in Arlington.
This is November 5, Oscar Foxtrot, Clay in the street.
Kilo 5, Kilo Oscar Bravo, K5, KOB, Philip in Wells Point.
Kilo Foxtrot 5, Zulu Bravo Lima, Bill, Farmers Branch.
This is Alpha Golf 5, Papa Mike, Rich in Rockwall, HE5TN.
This is Alpha Charlie 5, Delta Lima in Louisville.
This is November 5, Bravo, Bravo. Bill in Irving. I tried to find the web link, but I couldn't find it. So I tried using the web link from last month, but I couldn't find the normal check-in link inside BB.
This is November 5, Lima India Golf, Dell in Little Elm via Echolink.
Okay, let's acknowledge all of these. We have KG5 Zulu Mike Golf Joe, N5 Oscar Foxtrot Clay, K5 KLB Philip, KF5 ZBL Bill, AG5 PM Rich, AC5 Delta Lima David, N5 Bravo Bravo Bill, and N5 Lima India Golf Bill. All right. Let's see if we have those the spreadsheet here. Oh, yes, here it is. My apologies, Echolink just shut me down. I'm using my phone and it just... Anyway, it just kicked me out. But I'm back on. And I have the spreadsheet, but let's see. Okay, we got a couple new ones. We got NV5F, Virginia, and KE5ICX, Tom. I think everybody else on this list checked in over the air. Okay, do we have any more check-ins now?
This is Whiskey Bravo 4 Mike Foxtrot India WB4MFI Ted Dallas Low Power.
I thought I checked in online, but this is Kilo Foxtrot 5, Juliet Hotel Alpha, Chaz, and Bob the Cat. Bob the Cat gets 9 check-ins because he has 9 lives.
This is Kilo Echo 5 Echo November Eric in Plano.
Okay, we picked up WB4MFI Ted, KF5GHA Chaz, KE5 Echo November Eric. Let me look at the Echolink list. We got KD5LQD. I don't think I have him checked in yet. He's on Echolink. And I think that's everybody. If you don't hear your name, if I haven't checked you in, please do correct me. Okay, we'll come back and do some more check-ins shortly. So, where were we? This net is 90 minutes long and structured in several parts. General announcements, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events, National Space Society events, recent astronomical discoveries, discussion topic of the evening, what's up, space exploration and space history, constellation of the week, space launches of the week, visible satellite passages over the next couple of days, astronomical Q&A, and if with time, 73 round. So, let's see. Okay. Do we have any general announcements for this evening's net? These could be ham, astronomical, space, or of general interest to licensed hams. Please come now. I'm going to skip over all the nets because they're the same all the time. You can look on the website and find out information if you need it. So Saturday, that's today, we have another net after this one, tonight's Afterglow net. I'm going to call on Tom, KE5ICX, to read the synopsis that he wrote, so it's his fault. Tom, please go ahead. KE5ICX.
All right, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. Tonight's movie is Robinson Crusoe on Mars from 1964. Here's my highly accurate synopsis. Friday had enough of astronaut commander Christopher Kit Draper, USN, a fine pilot and military man, but very much a slob in just about everything else. Friday would routinely pick up his space socks, respirator, and empty oxygen spritzers off the cave floor. True, it wasn't the nicest place on Mars, but it shouldn't look like it was lived in by a subjugated human being pursued by ape overlords. That certainly wasn't the case. Friday rolled his eyes as Draper was deeply immersed in getting his spaceship to land nearby using his oversized, underperforming iPad space control device. Draper never paid attention to him or all his work he'd done to make their home, well, home. Before he knew it, the doorbell rang, and standing there as though he had a frontal lobotomy was Colonel Dan McReady, U.S. Air Force, a neighbor who'd shown up wanting to borrow a working brain and a cup of sugar. McReady wandered in, leaving Mars dust on Friday's recently waxed cave floor. Things were going downhill fast. Join us for the critically acclaimed, though financial flop, Robinson Crusoe on Mars from 1964 tonight at 10:30 p.m. Back to you, Brenda, KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. All right, next up, Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas events. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to tell us what's going on there.
Thank you, Brenda. I can't get Bob the Cat to talk, so I guess I'm going to have to do this. On July the 25th, that's not too far away from now, about 6 days from now, is the next Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meeting. The meeting is held at 7:30 p.m. in person at the University of Texas at Dallas. There's also a Zoom link as well. Most of the time it works. The featured speaker is going to be Dr. Stella Offner from UT Austin. Her topic is going to be AI data analysis. Wow, that should be interesting. Now, past hosts a Saturday night public observing sessions in the Dallas area. Skynet was picked to be on Saturday nights, so there could be an opportunity for live reports from the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas public observing sessions. On the third Saturday of the month, that would be tonight, the stargazing is held at Cedar Hill. Is there an amateur radio operator at Cedar Hill that would like to make a report? Come now with your call sign if there is. There's a lot of summertime things out there, globular star clusters, nebula, all sorts of things that they're looking at, probably some double stars as well. Alberio's in a good position right now, too. Anyway, all right, so no report, I'm sure, is going on since the sky is clear. Of course, we had some observing station of stars today. During the day, of course, the sun. But we also had a NASA astronaut at Moon Day. I'll talk more about Moon Day and even give you pictures on the video version of Skynet in a little bit. So let's see now. You can check the TASS website at texasastro.org for up-to-date information and details about meetings and public observing sessions. And this is KF5JHA. Did you check in 9 lives for Bob the Cat? This is yours, Brenda.
I did check in Bob the Cat. I made up a call sign for him. Coco the Cat is slipping through this, so I'm not checking him in. He's not getting any credit for it. He'll probably wake up and come walk on things at the most inopportune time. But that's what cats do. All right, next up, National Space Society events and activities. I'm going to call on Bill, N5BB. Please give us some information there. Go ahead, Bill.
Very good. Thank you, Brenda. This is Bill, November 5, Bravo, Bravo, N5BB. And if you check in Bob the Cat, make sure to say his name backwards. So you spell his name backwards, B-O-B. But make sure you do it backwards now, not forwards. Okay, I happen to be the National Space Society North Texas Chapter Vice President and Membership Director. You can reach me at space@byram.net. The National Space Society is a nonprofit group based in the U.S. which is interested in the exploration and development of space and the creation of a spacefaring civilization. Our local National Space Society chapter website is ntx.nss.org. Our group also has an active Facebook page. Just type National Space Society of North Texas into the search box. Today, which was Saturday, July the 19th, the National Space Society North Texas chapter participated in the Moon Day event at the Frontiers of Flight Museum in Dallas. At that event, we got a group picture of most of the members of our group that were there with the astronaut that was present, Tony Antonelli, who is a retired U.S. Navy captain and an astronaut. So that was fun. We saw lots of people, lots of kids, and we saw other groups that were there, like the Mars Society and the Dallas Amateur Radio Club, AMSAT, and a number of other groups. And, of course, we had a lot of people there from the National Space Society. Most of us were in blue shirts. On the last Friday evening of each month, from 6 to 8 p.m., the National Space Society North Texas chapter sponsors a social event called Space Rendezvous. The location is Cheddar's Restaurant, 700 West Highway 635 in Irving. Anyone is welcome to attend and discuss human activities in space with us. No membership in any group is required. 8 people attended the June 27th Space Rendezvous event last month. The next Space Rendezvous will be held on Friday evening, July 25th. It's always the last Friday of the month. The North Texas chapter of the National Space Society meets at 3:30 p.m. on the second Sunday afternoon of each month. The meeting location is Spring Creek Barbecue on the southwest corner of Highway 183 and Beltline Road in Irving. The next chapter meeting will be on Sunday afternoon, August the 10th. Our meetings are also available virtually using WebEx. Contact Bill, N5BB, if you'd like to attend. If you have any questions about the National Space Society, please contact Bill, N5BB. That's November 5, Bravo, Bravo. That is QRZ listed email address or at space@byram.net. Thank you, Brenda. This is N5BB. Back to net.
Thank you, Bill. Next segment is Recent Astronomical Discoveries, and presented by me. This is an article from Science Daily, entitled "Two Monster Black Holes Just Collided. It's so massive it shouldn't exist." That just almost doesn't sound real. The LIGO Virgo Cagra LVK collaboration has detected the merger of the most massive black holes ever observed with gravitational waves using the U.S. National Space Science Foundation-funded NSF, LIGO, Hanford, and Livingston observatories. The merger produced a final black hole more than 225 times the mass of our Sun. The signal, designated GW231123, was observed during the fourth observing run of the LVK network on November 23, 2023. The two black holes that merged were approximately 100 and 140 times the mass of the Sun. In addition to their high masses, they're also rapidly spinning, making this a uniquely challenging signal to interpret and suggesting the possibility of a complex formation history. This is the most massive black hole binary we've observed through gravitational waves, and it presents a real challenge to our understanding of black hole formation, says Professor Mark Hannum from Cardiff University and a member of the LIGO scientific collaboration. Black holes this massive are forbidden through standard stellar evolution models. One possibility is that the two black holes in this binary formed through earlier mergers of smaller black holes. To date, approximately 300 black hole mergers have been observed through gravitational waves, including candidates identified in the ongoing 04 run. Until now, the most massive confirmed black hole binary was the source of GW190521, with a much smaller total mass of only 140 times that of the Sun. Going to reset. The high mass and extremely rapid spinning of the black holes in GW231123 pushes the limits of both gravitational wave detection technology and current theoretical models. Extracting accurate information from the signal required to use the theoretical models that account for the complex dynamics of highly spinning black holes. The black holes appear to be spinning very rapidly near the limit allowed by Einstein's theory of general relativity, explains Dr. Charlie Hoy at the University of Portsmouth. That makes the signal difficult to model and interpret. It's an excellent case study for pushing forward the development of our theoretical tools. Researchers are continuing to refine their analysis and improve the models used to interpret such extreme events. It will take years for the community to fully unravel this intricate signal pattern and all its implications, says Dr. Gregorio Carula, assistant professor at the University of Birmingham. Despite the most likely explanation remaining a black hole merger, more complex scenarios could be the key to deciphering its unexpected features. Exciting times ahead. Gravitational wave detectors such as LIGO in the United States, Virgo in Italy, and CAGRA in Japan are designated to measure minute distortions of space-time caused by violent cosmic events like black hole mergers. The fourth observing run began May 23rd, and observations for the first part of the run up to January 2024 will be published later in the summer. The event pushes our instrumentation and data analysis capabilities to the edge of what's currently possible, says Dr. Sophie Binney, a postdoctoral researcher at Caltech. It's a powerful example of how much we can learn from gravitational wave astronomy and how much more there is to uncover. GW231123 will be presented at the 24th International Conference on General Relativity and Gravitation, GR24, and the 16th Eduardo Amaldi Conference on Gravitational Waves, held jointly as the GR Amaldi meeting in Glasgow, UK, from July 14th through 18th, 2025. All right. Do we have any more check-ins at this time? Please come now. Okay, next up, what you didn't know about the Apollo 11 mission. Apollo 11 is my absolute favorite space flight of all time. It meant a lot to me at the time. I was very into space at that time, and just knew I would get to go to space one day, even though I was a girl and couldn't be an astronaut. But I've never lost the bug, and it's very special to me. And this is the anniversary of that flight. This point here on the 19th, they would be headed to the moon. And found this article that had some things about the mission that maybe you didn't know, or if you did, maybe there's some details. So this is what you didn't know about Apollo 11. The moon has a smell. It has no air, but it has a smell. Each pair of Apollo astronauts to land on the moon trampled a lot of moon dust back into the lunar module. It was a deep gray, fine-grained, and extremely clingy. When they unsnapped their helmets, Neil Armstrong said, "We were aware of a new scent in the air of the cabin that clearly came from all the lunar material that had accumulated on and in our clothes." To him, it was the scent of wet ashes. To his Apollo 11 crewmate Buzz Aldrin, it was the smell in the air after a firecracker has gone off. All the astronauts who walked on the moon noticed it, and many commented on it to Mission Control. To Mission Control. Harrison Schmitt, the geologist who flew on Apollo 17, the last lunar landing, said, after his second moonwalk, it smells like someone's been firing a carbine in here. Almost unaccountably, no one had warned lunar module pilot Jim Irwin about the dust. When he took off his helmet inside the cramped lunar module cabin, he said, "There's a funny smell in here." His Apollo 15 crewmate, Dave Scott, said, "Yeah, I think that's the lunar dirt smell. Never smelled the lunar dirt before, but we got most of it right here with us." Moon dust was a mystery that the National Aeronautics and Space Administration had, in fact, thought about. Cornell University astrophysicist Thomas Gold warned NASA that the dust had been isolated from oxygen for so long that it might well be highly chemically reactive. If too much dust was carried inside the lunar module's cabin, the moment the astronauts repressurized it with air and the dust and came in contact with oxygen, it might start burning or even cause an explosion. Gold, who correctly predicted contact with oxygen, predicted early on that the moon's surface would be covered with powdery dust, had also warned NASA that the dust might be so deep that the lunar module and the astronauts themselves could sink irretrievably into it. You want to reset? Among the thousands of things they were keeping in mind while flying to the moon, Armstrong and Aldrin had been briefed about the very small possibility that the lunar dust could ignite. A late July fireworks display on the moon was not something advisable, said Aldrin. Armstrong and Aldrin did their own tests just a moment after he became the first human being to step onto the moon. Armstrong had scooped a bit of lunar dust into a sample bag and put it in a pocket of his spacesuit, a contingency sample in the event the astronauts had to leave suddenly without collecting rocks. Back inside the lunar module, the duo opened the bag and spread the lunar soil on top of the ascent engine. As they repressurized the cabin, they watched to see if the dirt started to smolder. If it did, we'd stop pressurization, open the hatch, and toss it out, Aldrin explained, but nothing happened. The moon dust turned out to be so clingy and so irritating that the one night Armstrong and Aldrin spent in the lunar module on the surface of the moon, they slept in their helmets and gloves, in part to avoid breathing the dust floating around inside the cabin. Yeah, it's nasty stuff. Then the Apollo 16 lunar samples. By the time the moon rocks and dust got back to Earth, a total of 842 pounds from 6 lunar landings, the odor was gone from samples exposed to air and moisture in their storage boxes. No one has quite figured out what caused the odor to begin with, or why it was so like spent gunpowder, which is chemically nothing like moon rock. Very distinctive smell, Apollo 12 Commander Pete Conrad said. I'll never forget, and I've never smelled it again since then. In 1999, as the century was ending, historian Arthur Schlesinger Jr. was among a group of people who were asked to name the most significant human achievement of the 20th century. In ranking the events, Schlesinger said, I put DNA and penicillin and the computer and the microchip in the first 10 because they've transformed civilization. But in 500 years, if the United States of America still exists, most history will have faded into invisibility. Pearl Harbor will be as remote as the War of the Roses, said Schlesinger. The one thing for which this century will be remembered 500 years from now was this. This was the century when we began the exploration of space. He picked the first moon landing, Apollo 11, as the most significant event of the 20th century. Going to reset. The trip from one small planet to a smaller nearby moon might someday seem as routine to us as a commercial flight today from Dallas to New York City, but it's hard to argue with Schlesinger's larger observation. In the Chronicle of Humanity, the first missions by people from Earth through space to another planetary body are unlikely ever to be lost to history, to memory, or to storytelling. The leap to the moon of the 1960s was an astonishing accomplishment. But why? What made it astonishing? We've lost track, not just of the details, but we've lost track of the plot itself. What exactly was the hard part? The answer is simple. When President John F. Kennedy declared in 1961 that the United States would go to the moon, he was committing to the nation to do something we simply couldn't do. We didn't have the tools or equipment, the rockets, or the launch pads, the space suits, or the computers, or the microgravity food. And it isn't just that we didn't have what we would need, we didn't even know what we would need. We didn't have a list. No one in the world had a list. Indeed, our unpreparedness for the task goes a level deeper. We didn't even know how to fly to the moon. We didn't know what course to fly to get from here to there. And as a small example of lunar dirt shows, we didn't know what we would find when we got there. Physicians worried that people wouldn't be able to think in microgravity conditions. Mathematicians worried that we wouldn't be able to calculate how to rendezvous two spacecraft in orbit, to bring them together in space and dock them in flight both perfectly and safely. On May 25, 1961, when Kennedy asked Congress to send Americans to the moon before the 60s were over, NASA had no rockets to launch astronauts to the moon, no computer portable enough to guide a spaceship to the moon, no spacesuits to wear on the way, no spaceship to land astronauts on the surface, let alone a moon car to let them drive around and explore, no network of tracking stations to talk to the astronauts en route. When Kennedy asked us to do that in 61, it was impossible, said Chris Kraft, the man who invented mission control. We made it possible. We, the United States, made it possible. 10,000 problems had to be solved to get us to the moon. Every one of those challenges was tackled and mastered between May 1961 and July 1969. The astronauts, the nation, flew to the moon because of hundreds of thousands of scientists, engineers, managers, and factory workers unraveled a series of puzzles, often without knowing whether the puzzle was a good solution. I know, at the time, I thought everything looked pretty easy. I had no idea what those people were going through. I've read a lot since, and I know a lot of that now, and it is amazing that we did it at all. So in retrospect, the results are both bold and bemusing. The Apollo spacecraft ended up with what was, for the time, the smallest, fastest, and most nimble computer in a single package anywhere in the world. That computer navigated through space and helped the astronauts operate the ship, but the astronauts also traveled to the moon with paper star charts so they could use a sextant to take star sightings, like 18th century explorers on the deck of a ship, and cross-check their computer's navigation. The software of the computer was stitched together by women sitting at specialized looms using wire instead of thread. In fact, an arresting amount of work across Apollo was done by hand. The heat shield was applied to the spaceship by hand with a fancy caulking gun. The parachutes were sewn by hand and then folded by hand. The only 3 staff members in the country who were trained and licensed to fold and pack the Apollo's parachutes were considered so indispensable that NASA officials forbade them to ever ride in the same car to avoid their all being injured in a single incident. Despite its high-tech aura, we have lost sight of the extent to which the lunar mission was handmade. Gonna reset. Anticipation for the actual moon landing should have been extraordinary. In fact, as earlier in the decade, and despite years of saturation coverage of Apollo and the astronauts, it was anything but universal. 4 weeks after Apollo 8's telecast from lunar orbit, the Harris Poll conducted a survey and asked Americans if they favored landing a man on the moon. Only 39% said yes, as if they thought the space program was worth the $4 billion a year it was costing. 55% of Americans said no. That year, in 1968, the war in Vietnam had cost $19.3 billion, more than the total cost of Apollo to that point, and had taken the lives of 16,899 U.S. troops, almost 50 dead every single day, by far the worst single year of the war for the U.S. military. Americans would prove to be delighted to have flown to the moon, but they were not preoccupied with it. The big myth of Apollo is that it was somehow a failure, at least a disappointment. That's certainly the conventional wisdom, that while the landings were a triumph, the aimless U.S. space program since then means Apollo itself was also pointless. Where is the Mars landing? Where are the moon bases, the network of orbital outposts? We haven't done any of that. We're decades from doing it. That misunderstands Apollo, though. The success is the very age we live in now. The race to the moon didn't usher in the space age. It ushered in the digital age. NASA also introduced Americans and the world to the culture and power of technology. We watched on TV for a decade as staff members of Mission Control used computers to fly spaceships to the moon. Part of that was NASA's introducing the rest of the world to real-time computing, a phrase that seems redundant to anyone who's been using a computer since the late 1970s. But in 1961, there was almost no computing in which an ordinary person, an engineer, a scientist, a mathematician, sat at a machine, asked it to do calculations, and got the answers while sitting there. Instead, you submitted your programs on stacks of punch cards. You got back piles of printouts based on the computer's run of your cards, and you got those printouts hours or days later. This is an article from, I think it's from Smithsonian. You can go there. It's much longer than this, but we just don't have time to cover it. It's kind of an older article, but it's still topical. So, do we have any more check-ins?
Kilo Juliet 5, Juliet Alpha Kilo, Nick and McKinney.
Okay, I've got KJ5JAK. Nick, welcome to the net. Okay, moving along. The next segment is What's Up. I'm going to call on Chaz, KF5JHA, to give this presentation. Go ahead, Chaz.
Thank you, Brenda. Well, good evening. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 2. Now, I'm talking about slides. Slides indicate what's going on the video version of Skynet. Go to W5FC.org, click on the link for YouTube, and you can watch the video version. You can hear all the words, but you can see pictures and things of what's going on with Skynet as well. So, yeah, this segment's called What's Up, because it's all about what's going on, what has gone on astronomically over the last couple of weeks and what will take place over the next couple of weeks and beyond. Slide Master, slide number 3. I want to talk about Moon Day. Moon Day is celebrated on the Saturday that's closest to the Apollo 11 landing on the moon. Thank you, Brenda, for talking all about Apollo 11. Important thing, a lot of people don't realize what we all did. You know, the computer on the lunar lander for Apollo 11 reset itself just a few moments before the landing? Yep. And it was less powerful than a Commodore 64 computer. I still have a Commodore 64 computer. Okay, anyway. Slide Master, slide number 3. That was Moon Day introduction slide. Slide Master, slide number 4. This is a picture of the Apollo 7 capsule that's sitting in the Frontiers of Flight Museum. That's where Moon Day is held. That was number 17 in a row of Moon Days for the Frontiers of Flight Museum. And there's also a picture in there of the National Space Society. Bill, I'm sorry I didn't capture you. You were running around setting up things at the time. Slide Master, slide number 5. Moon Day and the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas, they had several tables set up. And the Dallas Amateur Radio Club. Have you ever heard of them before? They had an area set up as well, and they were broadcasting too. I'm sorry. Oh, nope, not broadcasting. They're transmitting. Excuse me. Okay. And Slide Master, slide number 6. We had a couple of the net controls there. Now, of course, Bill, I didn't get a picture of you, but slide number 6 has a picture of Virginia, one of our net controls for Skynet. And Dr. Billichi, she was a presenter as well as on the 4th Saturday, she's a Skynet net control. And on the 5th Saturday, well, you can get a picture of him. Who knows what he's doing, what he looks like. All right, Slide Master, slide number 7. We've talked about the predicted nova of the star T Corona Borealis, which may erupt at any time. Last I checked, earlier today, it was currently at a brightness of around 10th magnitude, which is much too faint to be seen with just your 2 eyes. Even binoculars are kind of faint for that, so you need a telescope to see it. Now, it was predicted to go nova a year ago. Now, when it does go nova, T Corona Borealis could become as bright as the North Star. The North Star is 2nd magnitude. Now, I can see the North Star with just my 2 eyes from my very light-polluted location here in Mesquite, Texas. Slide Master, slide number 8. This image is of the sun that I took from spaceweather.com on Thursday. That was just a couple of days ago, July the 9th. July the 9th? No, that was a couple of days ago on the 17th. Yes, okay. The large sunspot complexes on the sun sometimes are so large that you can use your solar eclipse glasses to see them. No magnification necessary. And this one big sunspot that's on the sun right now is just about that brightness, just that size, to be able to see. Now, the sun is near its 11th year solar maximum. We're not quite sure when the solar maximum will occur until after it happens, because then we'll know when the peak was. Now, I've talked about the solar cycle about 4 months ago on Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 9, please. A couple of days ago on July 17th was the 3rd quarter phase of the moon. So the current phase of the moon is a waning crescent. On July the 20th, that's tomorrow, the moon is at perigee, which is the point in the moon's orbit that is closest to the Earth at a distance of 368,041 kilometers. New moon is on July the 24th. First quarter moon is on August the 1st. Also on August the 1st, the moon is at apogee, which is the point in moon's orbit that is furthest from the Earth, and it is 404,161 kilometers. On August the 9th, the moon is full. Slide Master, slide number 10, please. Okay, I want all of you to get up early tomorrow morning. Yep, just in a few hours. Less than 6 hours from now, you need to get up and take a look at the moon. On July the 20th, that's tomorrow morning, there's an occultation of the Pleiades, that's a star cluster, by the moon. That means the moon will be blocking out the Pleiades from 3 o'clock in the morning all the way until dawn. You can view with just your 2 eyes in the northeastern sky, and pair of binoculars is going to work much better. Telescope is even better. You can look at a lot of the fainter ones. But the bright Pleiades, yep, you can see with just your 2 eyes. It'll be an interesting event. I may get up and try to see if I can get some pictures using my C-Star telescope, which is a camera too. Slide Master, slide number 11. On July the 21st, just a couple days from now, you can do the observing of the conjunction of the moon and the bright planet Venus in the east-northeastern sky. Slide Master, slide number 12. On July 22nd, there's a conjunction of the moon, Jupiter, and Venus in the east-northeastern part of the sky. On Slide Master, slide number 13, on July the 23rd, there's a conjunction of the moon and Jupiter in the east-northeastern sky. So the next several mornings, just get up and take a look at some things. You can go back to bed if you want to. Slide Master, slide number 14. On July the 28th, there's a conjunction of the moon and the planet Mars in the western evening sky. It'll be easy to observe with just your 2 eyes, but it'll be twilight to be able to do that. Slide Master, slide number 15, On July the 30th, the moon and the bright star Spica are in conjunction in the southwestern evening sky. And the last in my sequence that I'm talking about, Slide Master, slide number 16, on August the 3rd, you can observe the conjunction of the moon and Antares, the bright star in Scorpius, in the southern evening sky. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Master, slide number 17. Now, do any of you out there in Radio Land have a question? Or maybe you need a fill on some of the information I've given you. Or maybe you just have a general astronomy question. Come now with your call sign if you have a question or need a fill.
KE5ICX.
Father Skynet. Go ahead, Tom.
Yeah, thank you, Bill. You've been talking about the star T Corona Borealis for a while now, but one of the things that we always talk about, and you always talk about, is it takes millions, billions of years, thousands of years for things to happen in space, and yet we're waiting, counting the hours for T Corona Borealis to explode, to go supernova. I don't know if you have the answer to this question, but how do they know something that closely? Even if it's off by a few months or even a year, that seems like a very short period of time. Is there something maybe you know or we can investigate as to how they know so exactly that could happen? KE5ICX.
That's a great question, Tom. So let's see. I've got to talk about a couple of different things. Supernovas are the death, the ending of stars. That's the violent ending of larger stars. But a nova, it happens in a more mild, mannered way and can reoccur several times. Over a star's lifetime, it can happen many times. Oftentimes, it's a result of a binary, at least a binary star system, where one star is pushing material onto the surface of another one, and the other one that's receiving the material sometimes gets enough material that it ignites all that material all at once, and that goes nova. That's what's happening with T. corona borealis, and it's happened several times in the past, and it's a regular basis. It seems to happen on a regular basis. I can't remember the exact last couple of times it's gone nova, but a nova is something that's not detrimental to the star system, but can happen on a regular basis. So it was last done at a certain time. I can't remember the year. I apologize. I can look it up. But the next time was supposed to be last year, around April. Well, maybe as late as last fall, but again, we're way past due for it. So what do we know? We don't know as much as what we think we know. The predictions are off for some reason, and we'll find out when it goes nova, and we'll make some predictions and observations, and maybe we can determine what happened and why it happened at a different time than we predicted. Tom, did that answer your question? This is KF5JHA.
Yes, Chaz, that answered my question. Thank you. KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. For those of you that didn't know that Tom was the person who actually started Skynet, I was the hired talent because I'm an astronomer. So between him and I, we started Skynet, and it was kind of rough around the edges. But there was a script back then. There's a script now. Thank you, Joe. Joe from Arlington, KG5ZMG. He says it was in 1946 the last time it went nova, so thank you for that. About every 80 years, yes. So we thought we know when it was going to happen. It's not happening when we thought it was going to. Good question. Slide master, that would be Tom. Tom's the slide projector, slide changer, yes. So slide 18. Says the moon wanes, so do these words for this segment of Skynet. Stay safe, keep well. Pray for our world. It's the only one where humans live right now. And until next time, actually I'll be doing another segment on Skynet in a few minutes. Keep looking up so you know what's up. That's what this segment is called. And this is KF5JHA, and this is Skynet transmitting on the W5FC repeater on 146.88 megahertz with a private line tone of 110.9. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's yours.
Thank you, Chaz. This is WV5OZL. Next up, space exploration and space history. I'm going to call on Gus, W5GUS, to present this to us tonight. Go ahead, Gus.
Okay, thank you, Brenda. W5GUS here with this week's edition of Space Exploration and History. Let's see, let's start with exploration news. Jupiter, Saturn, and Neptune each emit more energy than they receive from the sun, meaning they have comparatively warm interiors. But now Uranus is a little bit odd. NASA's Uranus flyby with Voyager 2 in 1986, about 40 years ago, found the planet colder than expected, which challenged ideas of how planets formed and evolved in our solar system. However, with advanced computer modeling and a new look at old data, scientists think the planet may actually be warmer than previously expected. For millennia, astronomers thought that Uranus was no more than a distant star. It wasn't until the late 18th century that Uranus was universally accepted as a planet. And to this day, the ringed blue world subverts scientists' expectations. But new NASA research helps puzzle out some of the worlds of the planet's mystique. Uranus is unlike any other planet in our solar system in several ways. It spins on its side, which means each pole directly faces the sun for a continuous 42-year summer. And Uranus also rotates in the opposite direction of all planets except Venus. So data from NASA's Voyager 2 Uranus flyby in '86 also suggested the planet is unusually cold inside, challenging scientists to reconsider fundamental theories of how planets formed and evolved through our solar system. And since Voyager 2's flyby, everybody has said that Uranus has no internal heat, said a planetary scientist. But it's been really hard to explain why that is, especially when compared with the other giant planets. These projections came from only one close-up measurement of the planet's emitted heat made by Voyager 2. Everything hinges on that one data point, and that's part of the problem. Now, using an advanced computer modeling technique and revisiting the decades of data that has been collected, Simon and the team of scientists have found that Uranus does, in fact, generate some heat, as they reported in the May 16th in the monthly Notices of Royal Astronomical Society Journal. Okay, and then a large rock will go over to Mars. A large rock broke off Mars' surface when an asteroid struck the planet, sending the rock flying through space. The roughly 54-pound slab then traveled 140 million miles to Earth, where it came through the atmosphere and landed on a desert in northwest Africa. Well, on Wednesday, that rock sold for nearly $5.3 million at a New York City auction house. The meteorite is the largest piece of Mars on Earth, said the auction house, and is now the highest-selling meteorite ever. Meteorite hunter discovered the more than 14-inch long rock in November of 2023 in Niger, Africa, but there was still work to be done to confirm its origins. So a lab in China successfully tested the rock for a glassy material that's commonly found in meteorites. Then the lab found that the meteorite's chemical composition was similar to meteorites discovered during NASA's Viking mission to Mars in 1976. So while the auction house doesn't know when the meteorite arrived on Earth, they said it probably landed recently because it's in good condition. All right, let's move on to space-related birthdays for July 18th through the 19th. All right, July 13th, 1950, George Nelson was born, STS-41, STS-61, and STS-26. On July 14th, 1936, Robert F. Overmyer was on STS-5, STS-51, and let's see, July 15th, 1977, Jessica Meir was on Soyuz, MS-15, Expedition 61-62. Okay, and on July 17th, 1977, a youngster, Janet L. Cavandi, July 17th, 1977. She was on STS-91 and STS-99 and STS-104. And one of our favorite guys, John Glenn, July 18th, 1921, Mercury, Atlas 6, and STS-95. And I believe he is still holding the record as the oldest passenger, or I guess astronaut that rode on into space. I believe he's still holding that record. That would, I guess, be STS 95. Okay, July 18th, 1973, Josh A. Cassanda. July 18th, 73, SpaceX Crew 5 in Expedition 68. July 19th, 1943, Roy D. Bridges was on STS 51, STS 61. Let's see, and then we'll move to July 19th. Scott D. Tingle, July 19th, 1965, Soyuz 07, Expedition 54 and 55. Boeing Starliner 1, Expedition 72, 73. Okay, we'll move on to this week in space history. July 13th through the 19th. July 13th, 1995, STS-70 took flight, setting a unique record. Space Shuttle Discovery was launched a mere 6 days after the landing of sister ship Atlantis. This marked the fastest turnaround between flights in the history of NASA. The original liftoff date had been targeted for June 22nd, but for several reasons, including an attack by woodpeckers, which poked about 200 holes in the foam insulation of Discovery external tank, the launch was delayed. Okay, July 15th, 75, on this day in space history, in 1975, both crews of the Apollo-Soyuz test project mission launched from their respective spaceports en route to a historic international rendezvous. On this day in space flight history, 1975, the Soviet and the U.S. Apollo-Soyuz test project crew members performed the first international rendezvous and docking in space and shared an unforgettable handshake. And as Brenda was mentioning, it's not easy to rendezvous two moving objects and dock and as closely as they had to do it. All right, we'll move to July 17th, 1962. X-15 pilot, test pilot Bob White broke the world record for highest altitude flight. This was in July 17, 1962. He took off from Edwards Air Force Base in a rocket-powered X-15 and made it to the altitude of 314,750 feet, and that's almost 60 miles. Okay, I'd like to mention something else here before we go on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. There is a telescope has just been starting construction. It's going to be in the desert mountains of Chile. It's called Magellan, the Magellan Telescope. It's going to be the world's most powerful ground-based telescope when it's completed. It's got 7 mirrors on it, and it's like I said, it's becoming it's being built now. Just started building it. It's going to have 28-foot diameter mirrors. There are 7 of them that total 368 square meters. This baby is going to be powerful. Its resolving power is about 10 times clearer than Hubble and about 4 times clearer of the James Webb telescope. And get this, it's enough to see a golf ball on the moon or resolve the torch engraving on the back of a dime from 100 miles away. Now that is something. Each mirror, it's about 28 feet across, takes 4 years to cast and polish these mirrors. The finish is so smooth that the highest peaks and valleys in that mirror are smaller than 1/1000th of the width of a human hair. That's across 28 feet of mirror. So that is going to take some while, but it will be historical for sure. It's going to be completed by the mid-2030s. And with that, we'll go back to net control, Brenda, and on to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. This is W5GUF.
Thank you, guys. All right, let's pause to see if there are any more check-ins. Please come now. Hearing none. We're going on now to Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week. We're going to call on Task 5JHA. Go ahead, Chad.
Thank you, Brenda. Once again, this is Chaz, KF5JHA. Slide Master, slide number 19. Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week is named in honor of Silent Key, Carolyn, KC50ZT. Carolyn contributed to Skynet each week, almost from its beginning in 2012. Yep, that's when Skynet started. Until May of 2019, with a detailed look at one particular constellation each week. Since there are about 52 easily visible constellations seen in Texas throughout the year out of the 88 total number of constellations, so Miss Carolyn covered the entire sky as seen over North Texas in a year. And in her honor, we've continued that tradition of a constellation per week and named this segment after her. So Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week this week is Draco the Dragon. Draco is the constellation of the dragon, and there's at least 3 different dragons in ancient mythology that Draco could represent. Possibly the best known one is the dragon of Ladon, who guarded the golden apples of Eurysipes. Ladon, the dragon, was slain by Hercules, so he could obtain the golden apples as one of his 12 labors. Unlike Orion and his nemesis Scorpius, which are opposite sides of the sky, Draco and Hercules are adjacent constellations. They're side by side in the nighttime sky. Slide Master, slide number 20. One of the most important parts of Skynet, the jokes of the week. Now, when I do the jokes at the Texas Astronomical Society of Dallas Club meetings, I get boos and hisses and laughter, and usually when I get to the very end of the joke segment, there's applause and whistles because it's the last joke. So you can do whatever you want. I won't be able to hear that, but over on Echolink, you can sit there and do all sorts of comments if you want to. If you're not a part of Echolink, it's a great place to go over there and do all sorts of things. We're talking about Bob the Cat and some other things over there on Echolink tonight. So anyway, so here we go. What did the tired dragon make for dinner? He's a tired dragon. Filet mignon. Get it? Why don't you listen to a dragon story? Because they tend to drag on. Why do dragons sleep all day? So they can fight nights. Oh, I think that's a funny one. I'm thinking about opening a Dungeons & Dragons themed vacation rental. I'm going to call it the Airbnb. Oh, come on. Instead of Airbnb. Okay, never mind. What did the dragon... Why did the dragon cross the road? Because he wanted to eat some chicken. And a final joke for the segment. Here we go. What's the difference between Hanukkah and dragons? One is 8 nights, while the other one 8 nights. If I have to explain them, they're no good. Okay. Slide Master, slide number 21, please. The star Thuban, also known as Alpha Draconis, is not the brightest star on the Draco at magnitude 3.64. The name Thuban is derived from the Arabic words for the whole constellation. There's been some speculation as to why Bayer gave Thuban an alpha designation, even though Edaman outshines it by 1.4 magnitudes. According to Burnham's Celestial Handbook, different astronomers in the past, from ancient times to the 19th century, assigned Thuban with different magnitudes. They suspected that Thuban of being a variable star, though it shows no sign of variabilities today. John Bayer himself, in his charts of 1603, gave Thuban a larger symbol than Edaman, thereby giving Thuban its alpha designation. Thuban is best known for being the former pole star at about 4,800 years ago, according to the Old Kingdom period of ancient Egypt. It was the nearest true pole at around 2830 BC, being less than 10 arcseconds from the North Celestial Pole. That's closer than Polaris is from the North Celestial Pole right now. Isn't that interesting? Edaman, or Gamma Draconis, is the brightest star in Draco at magnitude 2.24. The name Edaman is derived from the Arabic word meaning the dragon's head. The star Edaman appears a yellow-white in telescopes, and it's very easy to see with naked eye. I've seen it from the campus of Brookhaven. In fact, the astronomers, that's what I just wrote on, that's what I just said. The astronomy students look at it. It's one of the ones they have to determine the magnitude of, the brightness of the stars. Slide Master, slide number 22. I write a script for myself, but sometimes I deviate from it. M102, or NGC 5866. In July 2016, the issue of the Astronomy Society's newsletter, Texas Astronomical Society's newsletter, called The Spectrum, and David Hunch's article notes that a bit of controversy in regards to M102, that M102 is really a duplication of M101 and Ursa Major. It's not NGC 5866 in Draco. The Astronomical League's Messier list as 102 as NGC 5866. Stephen James Amir simply lists 102 as a duplicate observation of M101. Burnham's Celestial Handbook has a photograph of NGC 5866, but doesn't even mention M102 in its section on Draco. As to the object itself, NGC 5866 is a nice edge-on lenticular galaxy known as the Spindle Galaxy. It also appears as a somewhat elongated fuzzy streak that is wider and brighter at the center, just slightly. Slide Master, slide number 23. NGC, that stands for New General Catalog, 6543 is the Cat's Eye Nebula. Cat's Eye is the first planetary nebula to be examined spectroscopically by the astronomer William Huggins in August 29, 1864, which reveals that the planetary nebulas are composed of luminous gas and were not unresolved clusters of many stars, as thought back then. And a telescope of the Cat's Eye appears as a greenish-gray, slightly oval planetary nebula. With averted vision, a faint outer glow seems to appear. A large telescope would needed to be used to observe the central star. Slide Master, slide number 24, please. The object NGC 5907 is an edge-on galaxy known as the Splinter Galaxy, or the Needle Galaxy. And moderate telescopes, it looks like a faint fuzzy streak, similar to M102, but unlike M102, it is more uniform across its length. It remains about the same width almost from end to end, getting almost slightly thinner at the tips. The splinter or the needle are good names for this galaxy. Slide Master, slide number 25. UGC, that's another galaxy catalog, 10214 is the Tadpole Galaxy. This galaxy's unusual extended filament earned its place in Halton Arp's list of peculiar galaxies. One look at it, and you'll instantly see why it's called the Tadpole Galaxy. ARP placed the galaxy into a class known as having narrow filaments, and as galaxy in particular, this galaxy in particular, and as notes mention it, as a disturbance inside the western arm filament may originate from there. Famous astronomer Barbara Wilson was also able to see the galaxy in her 20-inch F5 Newtonian at 230 power as a small oval, fairly faint, no extension scene. That's what she described it as. And this is KF5JJ, and this is Skynet. Slide Masters, slide number 26. Now, there's a few more Astronomical League observing program objects in the constellation of Draco the Dragon. I've just given you a sampling of some of those objects in the Astronomical League. Has at last count 74 different observing programs, most of which have about 100 objects. If you observe just 10 different objects in an observing program each month, then you can earn an observing certificate and a pen in about a year from the Astronomical League. Slide Master, slide number 27, and that is Miss Carolyn's Constellation of the Week, Draco the Dragon. I want to thank my friends Dave Hutchinson and Dennis Harwell for the research and words on deep sky objects that I've used, borrow, and steal for every Skynet. Yep, not all the words are mine. I also at times use the website constellation-guide.com for information. Now next week we'll take a look at a different constellation, Sagittarius, the Centaur. What's a Centaur? We'll talk about that next week. And this is KF5JJ Chaz saying good night at 73. Back to our net control. Brenda, it's yours.
Thank you, Chaz. That was interesting. All right, next space launches for this week. I'm going to call on Tom, K5ICX. Go ahead, Tom.
All right, thank you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX. I'll give you space launches, and then I'll give you satellite passages after that as well. Let's see here. We have July 21st, a couple of days, will be the launch of a Falcon 9 rocket with the M-Power 9 and 10 on board. This will be from SLC-40 at Cape Canaveral in Florida. The Falcon 9 rocket will launch a fifth pair of O3D M-Power satellites to medium Earth orbit on behalf of the Luxembourg-based SES. That's all I have on it. I can't recall. There was additional information, but it's just not in this article. On May 22nd, another Falcon 9 launch from Vandenberg, SLC-4E. This will be NASA's Tracer Tandem Reconnection and Cusp Electrodynamics Reconnaissance Satellites as the primary payload on rideshare missions secured through the agency's Vader or Venture class acquisition, a dedicated rideshare launch services contract providing new opportunities for science and technology payloads. The two Tracer satellites are designed to study the interaction of the sun's solar particles interact with the Earth's magnetic field to better understand impacts of solar activity on Earth. The mission is conducted through a partnership with NASA and the University of Iowa and the Southwest Research Institute, University of New Hampshire, the Space Sciences Laboratory at the University of California, Berkeley, and the University of California, Los Angeles. Along with the launch of as rideshare payloads are the Athena Epic, small sat from NASA's Langley Research Center, NOAA, and the U.S. Space Force, and the Polylingual Experimental Terminal from NASA's SCAN, or Space Communications and Navigations Program, and RIO, which is the Relativistic Electron Atmospheric Loss CubeSat from Dartmouth College. So if you're into acronyms, this is your mission. And we have on July 27th is the Ares launch. Flight 1 from Pad 1 at the Bowen Orbital Spaceport. This is located in Australia at the Gilmore Space. Preparing to launch the inaugural flight of its Ares Block 1 rocket. The three-stage rocket is 82 feet tall with a 4.9 diameter payload fairing is designed to send up to 305 kilograms into low Earth orbit. This first mission, called Test Flight 1, does not appear to have a payload on board. More on that when it finally launches, hopefully on July 27th. Then we have on July 31st, launch of the Falcon 9. This one is a manned mission from Launch Complex 39A at Kennedy. It will be a Falcon 9 rocket with a Crew Dragon spacecraft carrying 3 astronauts and a cosmonaut to begin a long-duration mission aboard the International Space Station. This will be the 11th crew rotation mission launched under NASA's Commercial Crew Program. The mission will be led by NASA astronaut Zena Cardman and will be making her first trip to space. She was previously assigned the commander of the Crew 9 mission before NASA removed her and fellow astronaut Stephanie Wilson to create space for NASA astronauts Butch Wilmore and Sue Williams to return on board the Dragon Freedom spacecraft. Cardman will be joined by fellow NASA astronaut Mike Fink, JAXA astronaut Kamaya Yi, and Roscosmos cosmonaut Oleg Platonov. Platonov will be making his first trip into space, and this will be the 4th trip to the ISS for Fink and the 2nd for Yuri. I'll do one more of these before we move on to space passages coming up. We have in August an Ariane 6 mission. This will be MET-OP SGA-1 Sentinel-5. This will be launched from the Europe spaceport Crusoe, French Guiana. The Ariane 6 rocket from Ariane Space will launch EUMETSAT MET-OP SGA-1 satellite to a polar orbit at an altitude of 832 kilometers or 517 miles. Satellite also carries Copernicus Sentinel-5 satellite on board. This will be first in a series of 6 satellites scheduled to be launched between now and 2040. These MET-OP satellites weigh more than 4,000 kilograms, that's 8,800 pounds each, and is about the size of a small truck. This will be the 3rd launch of the Ariane 6 rocket. That's their heavy lift, by the way. All right, now I'll move on to the ISS. There's a number of fairly good passes, although they're fairly low on the horizon, but they are visible. We have July 25th, minus 1.2 magnitude. That's at 21:10 in the evening out of the north. Reach its highest point at, only 12 degrees at 21:11, and it'll fall to the northeast at 21:13. We have July 27th. Let me do this. July 25th, a second one. This one is, now let me go to the 26th. Some of these are so low, they have very bright magnitude, but they're in the sky so low they're kind of hard to see. So I'm skipping around here, but July 26th has a pretty good one. This is minus 3.4 magnitude at 21:57 in the evening. This one does reach fairly high at 51 degrees at 2200, and it'll fall to the east at 2101 at 41 degrees. But it is a relatively short pass. That's kind of the way it goes here. And then on July 27th, there are 2 passes. The second one, let me see here, which one's the better? The better one is the minus 3.4 magnitude at 2157. The northwest reaches highest point at 51 degrees at 2200, and at 2201 it'll go into shadow at 41 degrees. Then the 27th has a second one 90 minutes later. That's a minus 1.4 magnitude at 22:45 in the evening. It reaches its highest point at 18 degrees at 22:47, and it'll fall to the west-southwest at 22:47. So that's a short one, but at least you could see it twice in the same evening. So, I guess that's it. I don't have anything on Tiangong tonight, but there are a number of relatively low passes for the International Space Station, but still Rather interesting. Back to you, Brenda. This is KE5ICX.
Thank you, Tom. All right, do we have any more check-ins now?
Kilo India 5 Golf Sierra Romeo Anthony, no traffic.
I'm completely operational and all my circuits are functioning perfectly.
Afterglow Movie Net.
Okay, we have KF5GSR Anthony. So tonight we had 21 hams participating on the air. Thanks to everyone who checked in this evening. I hope you'll join us here next week and every Saturday night at 9 p.m. to discuss astronomy, space, and space exploration. On this net, the sky is never the limit. We're always looking for net control stations for this and all other DARC nets. If you'd like to try your hand at this, contact any of the net controls by sending an email to nets@w5fc.org. You can follow topics and discussions about this net and astronomy in general on Facebook and X, as well as our audio and video streams, video archives, and other useful Internet resources by going to w5fc.org at the conclusion of this net. Until next Saturday night, this is WB5OZL, Brenda. I'll be closing the net at 10:30 p.m. Local time. We're returning the repeater to normal amateur use. 72, everybody, and enjoy the evening discovering the universe. But wait, there's more. 5 minutes, we're going to have the Afterglow movie discussion net, Robinson Crusoe on Mars. So go take a break, and we'll see you in 5.
All right, everybody run back to the radio. It's the final net of the evening, and this one is the Afterglow Movie Net, where we are assigned a movie, we watch the movie, and then we come and talk about the movie for around 90 minutes on Saturday evening, starting at 10:30-ish. Well, it is now 10:30-ish, and tonight's movie was assigned last week, called Robinson Crusoe on Mars. This is a movie from 1964, science fiction film directed by Byron Haskin, produced by Aubrey Schnack, and stars Paul Manty, Victor London, and a very brief appearance by Adam West. Yes, that Adam West of Batman fame. It's a science fiction retelling of the classic 1719 novel Robinson Crusoe by Daniel Defoe. The film is distributed by Paramount Pictures and filmed in Technicolor and Technoscope. It was released on Blu-ray a while back, and the copy that we saw was a high-def version of the film over on YouTube. It's also available on Hulu. If you're so inclined, you can go and see the film for free. Let me just read you the first paragraph here. It says, Commander Christopher Kip Draco and Colonel Dan McReady reach the Red Planet in their spaceship Mars Gravity Probe 1 and forced to use up the remaining fuel in order to avoid an imminent collision with a large orbiting meteoroid. They descend in one-man lifeboat pods, becoming the first humans on Mars, but are separated. And they go on and talk about trying to survive. Only one of the two astronauts does survive. The other one dies. And they run into, of course, Friday, the character from Robinson Crusoe, who is a slave to aliens who happen to be crawling around the planet Mars, doing something, I don't know, strip mining the planet. I'm not sure what they're doing, but they show up and then they take a coffee break and disappear for a while, and they come back and start bombing the heck out of them. It didn't make a lot of sense to me, but at any rate, maybe people who are talking will find out. At any rate, they try and leave and get away from the aliens and head for the polar ice cap. They also need water, and follow the Martian canals, which were still popularized, and it was before the Mariner 9 mission yet, and everything about Mars that was so romantic as it was potentially shown in this film were pretty much jettisoned, just like the astronauts themselves. Exterior locations were shot in Death Valley National Park. Special effects were done by Albert Whitlock, and big studio resources, usually lacking in movies about outer space. They got a good budget for this with matte paintings Whitlock provided, as well as, of course, some really beautiful cinematography. For the alien spacecraft, designer Albert Nozaki constructed 3 miniatures closely resembling the Martian war machines he had made previously for Haskin for War of the Worlds from 1953. Haskin does make this comment from an interview he did with Joe Adamson, and he says the following, just a brief one little paragraph here. Robinson Crusoe on Mars was so obviously a director's tour de force that there was nobody to interfere and tell me how to shoot. I can't think of any other film I've made unless it was War of the Worlds, where I had such complete autonomy, and that's as much of a genuine pleasure and fulfillment from as Robinson Crusoe on Mars. It was as fulfilling as cinematography I've ever done. Everything I set out to do, I accomplished as well as one possibly could. We made extraordinary exploratory trips into Death Valley, and I conceived a key to credible verisimilitude. I never could say that word. I would abandon shots from the valleys, make them from up on the ridges. Death Valley had been seen in hundreds of westerns, but they were all shot from the bottoms of the canyons because there were horses that could gallop through. On top of these weird-looking ridges of marshmallow sands, the vista was something else. It looked like another planet, certainly not Death Valley. Additionally, I conceived making the blue skies red. It was wintertime, and the skies were deep blue. They formed the perfect traveling mat. And boy, oh boy, when you watch these scenes, it is quite impressive. I'd forgotten I'd seen this film as a kid, and rewatching it last night, it was really kind of a pleasure to see it, and in all its glory and in a full definition, or high definition. Okay, this is what we're going to do. I'm going to go ahead and take check-ins. You don't necessarily have to have seen the movie, but please let me know if you did. So please come with your call sign name and did you see the film. Then after that, we'll go into the plot. We'll talk about the plot. I'll call on you one at a time. Then characterization, then finally special effects if we've got time. So let's go ahead and get started. I will take check-ins. Please come with your call sign, your name, and did you see Robinson Crusoe on Mars?
Kilo India 5 Golf Sierra Romeo. No, I did not see it. First time on this net. No traffic otherwise.
Kilo Golf 5 Bravo Zulu Whiskey Jaden or whatever. Yep, I saw it.
WB5OZL, name's Brenda. Yes, I saw this movie.
November 5 Bravo Bravo, Dylan Irving. I have seen part of this movie. I haven't finished it.
November Victor 5 Foxtrot, Virginia. Yes, I saw this movie.
All right, let me go ahead and get these folks checked in. The first one is KI5GSR. You didn't see the movie, but that's okay. Can I get your name, please, and welcome to the net.
I did see this movie.
I guess somebody was checking in there. KI5GSR. My name here is Anthony. QTH is Fort Worth, but I'm passing through Dallas on 30 right now, mobile.
I'm glad you found us, and if you ever come back through again, we're here on Saturday nights. In fact, this repeater goes half the night. We start around 6:30 with Traffic Net, and it goes all the way to midnight with Net. So welcome, and if you got any comments, just do a break and say you'd like to say something, because we know you're limited in how far you can go. I'll get that check-in in a moment. I've got KG5BZWJ near Weatherford. Yeah, he saw the film. WE5OZL Brenda. Yes, she saw the film. N5BB Bill. He's still watching it, but he saw part of the film. Shame on Bill for not having seen this film the first time around. And then NV5F Virginia. Yes, she saw the film. Additional check-ins, please come now. Okay, well, we'll check in a little bit later. Today was Moon Day, which is sort of like it's almost like field day in the sense that all hams in the area end up doing something for Moon Day over at the Frontiers of Flight Museum. So I think a few people got up early, had a long day, and probably went to bed. So we may have a limited number of folks checking in tonight, which is kind of a shame because it's actually kind of a fun movie. But we'll see what we can do. Anthony, hang in there. I'll come back to you if you're still there. I'll ask you what you think, if you want to see the film or not. So we'll start with Jay, KG5BZW here at the top of the list. What did you think about the plot for tonight's film? Robinson Crusoe on Mars from 1964.
Alright, this is KG5BZW. I didn't hate it. I almost wish I had seen, well, reread, actually. I do believe I may have had a children's shortened version of it that I read as a kid, but, because it's been a while since I've done, maybe I should have gotten the, Cliff's Notes or whatever they call it now version. Because I think this plot would make more sense if you put it in that context. Because otherwise, you have the first part where, it's basically survivor mode. And then secondly, the plot just kind of flips to, it's such a jarring thing where you have, the first part where you are the only human on Mars, and then all of a sudden, not only are there humans, but there's aliens of some sort. And it seems kind of weird that, he didn't really, if he was, moving places, it makes more sense that he would discover, if he, in a Robinson Crusoe sense, if he decided to travel to different islands or something and discovered the native and whatnot. I can't remember. I really don't remember what the plot was. It would make more sense to to come upon the native and blah 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 or whatever. I'm calling him native. He's not really native, of course, because he's just in fact, I probably shouldn't be even using that term. He's a slave of the aliens. I'm trying to remember what. There's a lot I remember. I don't remember, I should say. Yeah, right. So, the plot's not that bad otherwise. They have to go on a venture to, A, escape the guy's former captors, and B, try to get our original hero back to, or whatever, protagonist back to Earth. It is really kind of, I don't know, it's, I have to treat the oxygen thing kind of like they were on like Mount Everest or something like that. But then they introduce these oxygen pills, which, okay, whatever. Maybe they, it is what it is. I could reverse engineer some sort of something like maybe, more hemoglobin for the blood or something. Maybe it's like iron plus, I don't know, some sort of whatever. But I'm making up crap. It still doesn't make that much sense. A lot of it scientifically doesn't make sense. It really is Robinson Crusoe, and they decided to put the location elsewhere. It is compared to a lot of the films we've seen on this, a lot better, but I don't know, it's nothing to brag about or tell your neighbors or anything. It's just a odd retelling, possibly, of Robinson Crusoe's, maybe passively, I don't know. Like I said, I don't remember much of it, so I'll just leave it at that. KG5BZW.
Okay, Okay, thank you, Jay. Next would be Brenda, WV5OZL. Brenda, what did you think about the plot to Robinson Crusoe on Mars?
This is WB5OZL. Well, obviously, they had to stick to the script. This is a very old plot. Man is marooned, and he's alone, and he goes through a lot of things to get what he needs. He finds things and invents things. Then he discovers another person and makes him his Guy Friday, essentially his servant. And you know, these stories have always been good. They're classics. But the new twist is he's on Mars. And so, yeah, you've got your basic plot. You can't really vary from that. A lot of the plot things I had such a problem with the science. Let's just make up rocks that emit around in our shirt sleeves because Mars is so balmy. No, it's not. It's below zero. You've got to have a suit on. They play fast and loose with a lot of science facts, and why in the world did you take a monkey on a space flight? Thank goodness NASA never thought of that. They're okay for testing, like Abel and Baker. Unfortunate, but you do have to test things on animals to make sure they're safe for humans. But what possible function would the monkey have? And it should have had diapers. I didn't see any. A lot of work. It's got, you know, how do you keep it from chewing wires or pushing buttons or things? It's just totally illogical to take a monkey on a spaceship. I certainly wouldn't do it. They're destructive. They never explained much about the aliens, who they were or what they were doing. They were just, you know, mindless. Although, well, yeah, they were mining for ore. We get that. They brought their slaves with them, who were strangely humanoid and could speak, although in their own language. But, well, that was convenient. And poor old Friday had to go around in very skimpy clothes, even though it's very cold on Mars. So a lot of it is just, you know, I just thought it was kind of corny. But I liked it. I enjoyed it. It moved well, paced well, and the characters were just fine. I never lost interest, I'll say that. All right, back to Nat, WB5OZL.
About the plot, or yes, plot from KE5ICX.
Tom, just get you 5BDW. I did not hear the call, so I don't know who you were calling.
Oh, thank you, Jay. It may be here. Sometimes All-Starlink doesn't key up like it's supposed to. Bill, N5BB, you're next. Your thoughts on plot?
Oh, no, this is N5BB. As I said, I'm still watching it. I'm still got 20 more minutes, so I don't know how it ends. As with a lot of these things, I think it started off okay, and then it's deteriorating into alien monsters and people from other places. But the first part of the movie, the plot was reasonable. except I didn't like the red things. I guess they were supposed to be asteroids, but they didn't look like asteroids that were going around. So I don't know. I haven't watched the end of it. I'm still trying to figure it out. So I'm going to withhold my judgment about the plot until I can see the next 20 minutes. I'll try to skip through it before you come back to me next time, Tom. One thing, of course, is as in many of these movies, it's the miraculous thing of the protagonist is just about ready to die. At the last moment, they find something that saves them. And I don't know, this is just kind of tiring for me after a while. Silly for somebody to be dying and suddenly they sniff oxygen in a rock that got hot. I find that just not very good writing, but that's the way they wrote these things. Anyway, maybe by next time you come back, I'll know more about it in 5BB. Thank you.
All right, Bill. Well, you do due diligence on the rest of the film, and then you come back and hit the first part, what you thought about the plot on the next round. No problem there. Next is Virginia, NV5F. She saw the film. I know she watched it last night. So what do you think about the plot, Virginia, from KE5ICX?
Okay, well, just from the title of the movie and the year that it was created, I was expecting a kind of corny science fiction / science fantasy plot, so my expectations were not terribly lofty. There were some things that from the start were ridiculous, like a monkey wearing a spacesuit. But I also know that in a certain era in entertainment history, that was kind of a thing they liked to do to get people engaged in a plot. They would put a cute animal mascot, and monkeys were, I think, particularly used a lot in that way, kind of to maybe get kids interested or whatever. So that was very silly, like Brenda said. It's completely impractical, and, you know, maybe you could justify having the monkey there to, you know, send it into a hostile environment to see if, you know, the atmosphere killed it or something. I don't know, but that's kind of morbid. So yeah, that was super silly. It, of course, added to the plot in places where the monkey was the one being an animal and having instincts that animals do. It was the one who, you know, found the water, and, you know, there were a couple places where the plot kind of depended on that character, the monkey. But yeah, I'm kind of with others on the fact that the plot was implausible because of how much we know about Mars now. Okay, here's my 2001 twist. They started working on making 2001 the year this movie came out, and the idea of the canals and all that was very popular. And then the Mariner probe went by Mars not too long after this, and there was enough evidence from it that got people, you know, really looking at the features on Mars as if maybe there could be life on Mars. And this was when Stanley Kubrick panicked, and he went to like Lloyd's of London or somewhere and to see if he could take out an insurance policy against the possible discovery of life on Mars or elsewhere in the solar system before he finished his movie. So that's what I thought about during this. But, you know, those implausibilities, yes, I think they could have been a lot more scientifically accurate. You know, the stuff about rocks emitting oxygen when you burned them, and the temperature on Mars, and the fact that the thing that killed me was that he kept opening and closing the visor on his space helmet. Like, he would just open it when he was panicking, he would open it, and then when he got scared, he would close it. There was no consistency about whether or not his helmet visor was open or closed. The whole thing of, I only need to huff on pure oxygen about every 15 minutes to keep going. It was all really silly, but we have to look at it from a perspective of 60 years later, when people are just a lot more sophisticated about space. And the plot, I did feel like, was interesting, just to him, how he was surviving. Some of the gadgetry he had was pretty, they were, the retrofuturism, they were at least trying to think of, how would this technology work, or whatever. I liked some of just the visuals of the gadgetry, or the control panels and stuff up in the spaceship. I actually kind of liked those. The whole plot of them, like, not having a way to eject from the spacecraft together. They had to eject separately, and, one guy made it, the other guy didn't. That was a little wild. Just kind of, why didn't they come up with a better lifeboat system? I don't know, but anyway, the abruptness of the introduction of Friday and the aliens, which were, we know now why they seemed like such a rip-off of War of the Worlds, because they kind of were. They seemed so ephemeral, like, okay, if they were advanced enough to come from very far away and bring other humanoid aliens as slaves and all that, okay, maybe they would have these very ephemeral, fleeting spacecraft that, just kind of zipped in and out of the frame and didn't seem to have any, they didn't seem to have any connection to actual Newtonian physics, and, it was just like, that was all the guy could think of, was, let's just make them like War of the Worlds. So yeah, that whole change in the plot was sort of, it seemed like a forced thing where suddenly, we had to get this other character in, and this is how we did it, and it was all very quick and abrupt and a little jarring. Once the shock of that sudden plot twist that came out of absolutely nowhere, once that kind of wore off, the plot between him and Friday got kind of interesting as, their relationship developed, and they, everybody figured out who everybody was and what they were up to. Some of the stuff, like Bill was talking about, just a random fiery asteroid would just crash, out of nowhere, and, and rain down black schmutz on everything or whatever. That was a little bit vicious, but I thought their friendship was interesting, and I thought that the journey, to the polar ice cap to find water and escape from the bad guys, and them working together to sort of outsmart the bad guys, and and then as often in these kind of science fiction movies where people are waiting for a rescue, the rescue was like very welcome, and kind of we've made it this far, we survived, and and now the polar ice caps are melting, and then suddenly you hear somebody from Earth on the radio, and there were no more reversals. It was just like, okay, the people from Earth have arrived, they sent down a capsule. I guess it's like a capsule that can relaunch back to orbit, I don't know, but the end, so that was typical back then. They would just have like, they made it through their tribulations, and then suddenly everything's okay. So but I found it engaging enough to be interesting, and the writing was good enough to be like not just boring or completely ludicrous. And for what it was, for what I expected, it kept me going, and it was silly, and it was out there, and the fact that he could find like something growing in the water that he could eat and make fabric out of and use for everything, it was a little convenient, and but in a fantasy sense, it was interesting to just kind of see, okay, how is he going to make his way on Mars, and I don't know how they could have worked the Friday character into it without the abrupt plot twist that just was jarring. Maybe they could have done that a little better. But the monkey, I don't know, was always kind of annoying, but I'm not a big fan of monkeys in general. So, but, that's just what they did back then. They would put a cute animal into movies. And whenever I see someone shooting on a set, especially with a monkey, I can't help but imagine how annoying that was. And, monkeys just seem annoying to me. Okay, that's it. Not a bad movie. I enjoyed it for what it was. Back to net in V5F.
Okay, thank you, Virginia, and thank you. I managed to get some additional comments here scribbled down from my end of it. Anyone else want to check in? Please come with your call, your name, and did you see tonight's film, Robinson Crusoe on Mars from 1964? Additional check-ins.
Kilo Bravo 9, Sierra Oscar Kilo, Sean in Fort Worth. Yes, I did see this movie.
All right, KB9SOK. Sean, your comments about plot. Go ahead.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. This movie is interesting, how this was written, because it was almost like two movies in one. It's like they had two different ideas for a movie and decided just to combine them together. As everybody mentioned, we had the first half, which was survival, which I kind of liked that part of it. Well, first of all, I'll start off with, they killed Batman. How could they? But anyway, so it was strange that they had two separate life pods. There were some very interesting choices, and as everybody's already mentioned, I almost, once again, you got to kind of look at the eyes of when it was made, and then if you want to just take it a step further, pretend like, okay, it's not Mars, it's a different planet. The whole oxygen thing was, there was so much bad science that it was not good, but there was the aspects of it. I did like the basic aspects of it. Obviously you had to find the basics. I thought it was interesting, obviously, using the monkey to find the water, because animals are obviously way more resourceful in finding resources like that. Even though the monkey was very annoying, I found in most of the movie, it got kind of old after a while. Just because they kept going back to the monkey being an issue, and I guess that was probably a little bit like Jar Jar Binks in the Star Wars movie, but it got old after a while. But I did like the idea that they did use the animal to help find resources. But I did like the survival first part of the movie. It's almost a little bit like The Martian. Just trying to figure out using local resources, what can they do? And then I like the aspect of it too. They kind of showed more. By the time we hit the halfway point, obviously he was struggling, not having anybody to talk to, and that is a real thing. That is something they do actually test astronauts for. Can they handle isolation? If you ever watch that TV show Alone, where they abandon the people out in the middle of nowhere, usually about 6 out of the 10 people tap out because they just can't take it. And so that is a real thing. So it's interesting that they did go there. So I kind of actually know the science was pretty crazy. I did actually enjoy the first half.
Second half, yeah, it was very jarring. I agree with Virginia. It was just kind of like all at once, out of nowhere, we got aliens. And I think if they were going to do that, they needed to blend it in much earlier. I think he should have met the guy much earlier on and done that. And then once that kind of came in, it was strange too. Once again, astronauts are fairly highly trained, intelligent people. I thought it was kind of irritating me because he was really being quite rude and not very nice to Friday at all, and insisted upon him learning our language instead of him making any effort to understand him. I think it would have been a give and take in a real life scenario. I would hope anyway. But it was kind of arrogant that he expected Friday to learn our language or English. So I didn't really like that part of it. It kind of annoyed me that he kind of treated him kind of like a slave, just like the aliens did. So I didn't like that part of it. So yeah, the second half kind of annoyed me some. It was, I guess they wanted to show some conflict so they could show them becoming BFFs and, finding a way to survive. And there were aspects of the second half that were okay, but yeah, the alien thing just didn't make much sense. I get that they were mining the planet and using the slaves to do it, and maybe for some reason they couldn't come down to the planet because of, whatever their makeup is. So they have to use slaves. That's why they would use the bracelets to force them to do what they want. And maybe after the ones rebelled and escaped and didn't want to go back, and of course they went in and just killed them, I guess, instead of just leaving them. I guess that was a punishment. But so yeah, I kind of enjoyed the first half. Second half was not as enjoyable. It forced the movie to stretch out a little longer than it needed to be, I think, because it was kind of like they slammed two movies together. Once again, had they introduced that a little earlier, it would have shortened up the runtime and then made a few tweaks. I think this could have been very good, actually, for its time. But overall, I liked it okay. We've seen a lot of movies where back in that time frame, the 50s and 60s, going to Mars, and this is definitely one of the better ones at least. We can talk about the cinematography and all that third round, but overall, I did feel for a movie from that time, it was much better than a lot of the other early on Mars movies that we've seen. So all in all, it kept my interest. I watched it to the end, so yeah, this one was okay. Anyway, back to that KV9, that's okay.
All right, thank you, Sean. Thanks for the comments. My comments on the film were, and I had a lot of the same issues everybody else did. Some of the scientific accuracy was a bit off, but let me tell you this. We could put this into context. If you were on the previous net, and we're talking about Apollo 11, and the fact that they really didn't know what to expect when they landed on the moon, as far as will the dust spontaneously combust? Will the spaceship just disappear into the soft surface? Would there be life there potentially? All those questions weren't answered quite yet, although they kind of knew before the final manned landing with unmanned spacecraft. But you take that and now move it off to Mars, and the fact that we had very little information about Mars except from Earth-based optical telescopes, there wasn't a lot to know. I even remember back years ago when, after having all of that science available and we had the orbiting spacecraft, what was it, it was either Isaac Asimov or Arthur C. Clarke had brought, I think it was Arthur C. Clarke had brought attention to the fact that in the springtime you could see patterns on Mars. And this is from orbit, from unmanned spacecraft. And the thing about it was is that when he showed those pictures, it did indeed look like plants or greenery or something on the surface. They've only recently answered that question definitively, and it has to do with the wind that turns over the dust that makes it look like trees, or, it's very two-dimensional, but it looks more three-dimensional from space. It's hard to get a depth perception. Not to say you see leaves or anything like that, just large patterns that look like knolls of grass or some sort of greenery or something like that. In this case, more reddery, I guess. But he's right. It did look like that, and it happening in the springtime, and the ice cap melting and things like that, and diminishing in size. Certainly, you would think that because that gives it an Earth characteristic. But even then, so late, and we knew so much, we still didn't have all the answers. And today, we still don't have all the answers. There's still things about Mars that we think are running water that turn out to be lava flows or dust movement and things like that. So go back to 1964, you really got to start wondering. So it was still kind of a glamorous time, unknown. There's more like Earth than not, and I think that's why you see him with his visor going down and up all the time. Because that's what it was presupposed to be. I can take that as what it is as far as the oxygen and that, having the oxygen in the rocks. Certainly going to the moon, they're talking about that sort of thing with ice and creating oxygen out of the ice. And I think, pressure and all that. Certainly the science is not going to be there. And they're going to take writing liberties on the thing to move the story along. That happens a lot. So I give them a little bit of leeway on things like that. What else was I going to say? About the plot, I didn't understand the aliens and their purpose. That just drove me nuts. I couldn't quite understand what was going on there. What are they mining? Or what are they going for? Where are they selling it? Are they going to go take it to Earth and sell it at a concession stand at Yankee Stadium or something? I don't know what they were doing. I kind of would like to have known what they were trying to mine. Maybe the natural resources or something that were there, but why? And then they go after Friday. He's escaped, and they're looking for him. And they're using tons and tons and tons of ordnance. They have all these spaceships looking for this one slave, and then yet, when they left the slaves behind. So how important were the slaves? Apparently not too important, but important enough that they had to use all of the fuel and the blasting caps or whatever the heck they had that they were blowing up on the surface. And they went back to find him a second time. So I guess he was important. They went to go have a smoke or a coffee break or something and came back, 2 months later to do their thing. That was never explained. It's kind of like to know what the heck the aliens were supposed to be doing. That never made any sense to me. Also with the spaceship, the gravity spaceship, what was the deal? They run out of fuel. They seem very routine. Oh, well, we're going to run out of fuel. Oh, too bad, so sad. Let's eject separately. And that'll be fine. We'll meet up when we get on the ground. Thumbs up, bye. And they glass down. And, of course, nothing's going to happen, right? They're just going to land within, 4 or 5 feet of each other on separate spaceships? Huh? That doesn't make sense. They're going along at a pretty good clip. What if they have a mountain that's separating them? They didn't do anything to say, look out the window and look for a flat landing spot. They just hit the buttons, ejected, and they were gone. By the way, did you notice the spaceships look an awful lot like prototype Gemini spacecraft? Because they sure as heck look like that to me. I thought that was kind of interesting. And in '64, of course, they would have been flying them. So I thought that was interesting. Okay, that was a lot. Let me see. Any other notes? No. That's what I had for those. Okay. Well, let me go and see if Anthony is still there. KI5GSR. Anthony may be out of range. I don't know. I know he was mobile. But if you're out there, Anthony, what do you think? Is this a movie that you would want to see from KE5ICX? Okay, I figured he probably managed to get out of transmission range. Anyone else want to check in? Please come with your call now.
Juliet 5, Golf Oscar Tango, John, Mobile on 35N.
AC5DL, Dave, Louisville.
Hey, we picked up two more. I recognize one of those two, and I got KJ5GOT, and my pen locked, and I didn't write down your name. If you would you please give me your name, and did you see the film, and you got any comments about it?
KJ5GOT, John, headed north on 35 from Dallas. I did not watch the movie. I just wanted to check in and make it known that I checked into the net, but I do not have any answers, and I do not wish to be called upon. Thank you.
Well, it's most appreciated that you did check in. We're always curious to whoever might be out there, and no problem. Next time you're in the area or traveling, and you do have something to say or want to come by and make comments, by all means do. We'll be more than happy to have you. And the next one I got AC5DL, David. That's David, who's always on Friday nights there chatting with us about the movies, but we don't always get him because it's always past his bedtime. What are you doing up so late, number one? And number two, what did you think about the plot for our fine film from KE5ICX?
Well, good evening, Tom, and everyone else on the net. What am I doing up so late? Well, I'm just thinking about this great movie. This movie is actually one that I saw as a youth back in 1964. I guess that's dating myself, but I saw this at the Ayers Theater in Corpus Christi, Texas, back in that date, and anyhow, what do I think about the movie? I think it's actually a really good parallel to the original novel of Robinson Crusoe. You know, he was kind of shipwrecked on a desolate planet and had to deal with survival and discovered another human, Friday, and had to make a go of it. And I think it was pretty good for the time. You have to consider this was 7 years after Sputnik, so there was a speculation about what the planet of Mars or any other planet was like, for that matter. So a lot of creativity in it, a few humorous things here and there if you stop and think about them, you know, but anyhow, I thought it was a great movie in regards to the plot. Somewhat of a sudden ending with the discovery of, oh, look, here's our rescue spaceship right here at the end. Well, that's great. Look, they did a perfect landing. No, that's nice. Too bad we didn't. But anyhow, overall, a very good movie in terms of a plot. So back to net, AC5DL.
All right, thank you, Dave. Yeah, very, very true. How come they could land? How come that one guy could land and the two of them couldn't? He was making as much sense. Well, they ran out of fuel, but they didn't seem too worried about. But anyway, yes, the Ayers Theater is gone forever and ever. It is no longer down here, as you well know. I keep forgetting the fact that you did live down here for a number of years. So we talked about that a number of times, and I always forget that fact. But enjoy it down here. There's a main theater downtown. I forget the name of it right now, that they're going to renovate, a few $1 million to do it, and bring it back, downtown theater. You probably know the name of it, but at any rate, it's going to be a venue for live theater, and they're going to put some sort of a school learning thing next door to it. They're in the process of making all that happen, so it should be really interesting. Downtown's getting very interesting. A lot of things going on down there now. Small downtown, but a nice one. Okay, well, let's see. Let's go ahead and go to the top. We'll talk about characterizations. This should go fast because there's only a few characters. There's like 3 people in the whole film. And the doctor. Don't forget the black and white film doctor. So we'll go to Jay, KG5BZW. Jay, your comments on characterization. Go ahead from KE5ICX.
All right, this is a KG5BZW. So, what to say? I mean, the Robinson, I can't remember who the main protagonist is. We were introduced to, I believe that was Adam West, and then we learned that that's, of course, not the main character later on, and I don't know how the guy, initially I wasn't entirely sure I liked him, but not Adam, but the other, the one that ended up being our Robinson Crusoe guy. But he did a fair job. I mean, with what the script gave him. Don't forget the monkey, which, like, why is it there? Well, here's the thing. I want to say the original Robinson Crusoe did have a monkey, but I don't. I'd have to look it up, and I'm too lazy to verify if that's the case or not. I'd have some recollection of that, but you know, at least some sort of animal friend, whether or not it's I want to call that Rhesus, but I'm not. I know it's not Rhesus. I don't know what that type of monkey is. That's just the first name that popped in mind. Now I think of it. I don't know. We have Friday, which there's a lot, and this kind of goes to the plot, to, like, why was Friday mute at first? They didn't really arrange it so that it was explained why I'm guessing Friday maybe lacked trust in this guy, but he didn't say anything at all, and not much less, you know, or make any noise even. And then all of a sudden he decides this guy's trustworthy enough to talk to him, I guess, but so a lot of stuff should have been conveyed in body language, which I don't know. I mean, he did an okay job, but it really, there wasn't enough to me to, you know, enough of a facial expression of, hold on, let me reset. Okay, the KG5BW. Anyway, I thought there was those were messages to me. It felt very much like acting for Indians by people who weren't Indians in the Western TV shows of that era. It was very, I don't know, I considered it odd. It didn't really matter what, ethnicity this person was, because he was a slave and, whatever, of these alien or whatever humanoid. I don't want to get into backstory here, but it still struck me. It didn't seem. There's just something odd about the whole thing that I didn't quite like, and I don't know if it's because there's just certain things about how certain things are handled back then that I don't like or what. Don't particularly like it. I mean, I acknowledge it. It won't necessarily keep me from watching it or anything, but Professor, he sounded, good. He had. There's not. Everybody did their part. It was. I'm not even saying how Friday handled it. In fact, when he started verbalizing, he seemed more natural, and maybe there was just something about that, the fact that they were trying to convey that I just think they missed something, and I don't know if it's just something that, for me, looking back at, that it just seems wrong, or if it's just really wrong in general. I really don't. After that initial thing where they start actually communicating, I've already said this, but it seemed better. But anyway, I'll leave it at that. KG5BGW.
Okay, thank you, Jay. Next up is Brenda, WB5OZL. Same question to you. What do you think about the characterization and acting in our movie tonight, Robinson Crusoe on Mars?
This is WB5OZL. Well, the monkey was annoying. I guess her acting was okay for a monkey. Obviously, they thought this was going to be cute. Look, Superman's got a dog that acts up a lot now. So it's a common thing that they do. Anyway, I have no idea why Adam West would be in this movie. Unless, I don't know. They paid him $30 to show up for 30 minutes. I don't know. But, he's Adam West. He played Adam West, like always. The Robinson Crusoe character, I guess he was okay as an actor. I don't know what you expect. There wasn't just a whole lot of range of expressions called for in this movie. He was fit. He could climb hills. He was, well cast for that. It was just almost painful to watch him climb and climb and walk and walk. I got tired just watching him. The Friday guy, he just pretty much was a monotone until later in the end. He got a little better there toward the end, the acting did. But, it's kind of what you expect out of this. There wasn't a whole lot of drama here. There was some adventure and some dialogue, but not a range of emotions or of thought. Just pretty monochromatic. Wish they'd shown us some aliens. That would have been fun. I mean, the Martian, well, the ones with the Martian spaceships. It would have been fun if we'd seen them. Okay, really all I got. The characters weren't all that interesting. Back to that W5OZL.
All right, thank you, Brenda. Next up would be Bill, N5BB. Bill, we'll let you catch up now. You got anything on the plot and your reaction to it, since you've probably finished the movie now, and then acting and characterization. You're up from KE5ICX.
This is N5BB. Yes, I finished it a long time ago. So I'm bored and disappointed. Bored because it's like there's nothing new in the last 20 minutes of the movie, really, except the amazing, the Earthlings are coming to rescue them. But I'm disappointed because, just I think as you mentioned, we don't really figure out what the heck is going on with Friday and the aliens. So when they looked at those pictures he took of the what was going on over that ridge, they saw human-looking creatures. They look like humans inside spacesuits. You could see their faces in there. They look like human faces. And they were treating badly other humans that were not in spacesuits, that were dressed like, some imagining of Europeans, of Egyptians building pyramids or something. I don't know. They looked native, as they would have said probably back then. I did not understand if they came from very far away, some star in Orion's belt. How did they get there? I didn't see any spacecraft that we could. I saw those things that were going around and blasting things. Were those robots, or were there creatures inside those driving them? We don't really know. They seem to zip around too fast for some creature to be inside of it. But like you said, why did they go there? What were they mining? Where were they taking it? They were a long way away. It would have taken them, a long time. Like, I don't know how far away that particular star is. I'm guessing thousands of years to get here in human terms. But Friday said he was only, 70-some years old? That didn't make any sense. And why did they bother with trying to find Friday? I mean, did they want him just to work more? They spent an awful lot of effort into trying to find him. And it seems like they were willing to just blast him and kill him. Why? What difference did it make? What was he going to do? He was going to eventually, probably. I didn't understand that. As far as the characterizations go, it was, to be honest, pretty racist. I mean, Friday was this native kind of person that had to learn the language of the guy from Earth, and he was kind of basic, and he didn't have full clothes on and everything. He was a slave. I don't know. I don't know. It was the kind of plot they did back then, and it reminds me of something from, Edgar Rice Burroughs or earlier kind of plot techniques. But I don't know. They should have been getting away from this by 1964, if you ask me. So I thought it was rather demeaning to Friday. As far as characterizations and acting, I guess they did an okay job on it. I think Mona the monkey, by the way, look in the credits for the actual name of the monkey. It's something like Furry Monkey or something. I think Mona did a great job acting. I think that the best actor in it was Mona, okay? And it's kind of weird that Adam West was on there for just a couple of minutes before they got rid of him. I guess that's all I got. I wasn't impressed by the movie. The production quality was reasonable for a 1964 movie, as far as that goes. The special effects look hokey. I mean, the alien spacecraft were jumping around with just simple red lights on them and just the normal death ray kind of things. The special effects for the asteroids or whatever they were stupid. I didn't like that at all. And what were they doing? They were melting the ice cap. Well, that made no sense. And how did they just very quickly get to the frozen ice cap? And why weren't they shivering and dying of being too cold? How did it get so cold so quickly? Nobody told us. Anyway, too many holes in it. To me, they could have made a movie that was simpler, but they wanted to use the Friday and all of that, so they had to include all those tropes. So, I really didn't like it because of all that. And because of the characterizations, really. That's all I got in 5BD.
Ray. Everybody's seeing the death ray. You know what? Everybody dies after they use the death ray, except for the one guy who doesn't die that kills the guy with the death ray. You've gotten so jaded. But it's okay. Next up is Virginia, ND5F. Virginia, do death rays drag down your energy from KE5ICX?
Yeah, I didn't care much for the death rays. I remember last night when we were watching this, I got really frustrated as soon as the obvious War of the Worlds ripoff death ray ships showed up. Just seemed really jarring. Anyway, we're on round 2. So, yeah, let's see. We didn't have a whole lot of characters. I'm not sure why everybody is. Not everybody, but we've heard several remarks about why was Adam West in this? Well, he had to be in something before Batman. Unless this is a concurrent with Batman. If I'm, pardon me for not knowing. I know Batman was out in the 60s, but I figured it was later in the 60s, when things were getting a little more groovier. So, he had to be in something. He couldn't have he can't have been in one show. I guess maybe a few actors are, but anyway, so he was fine. Everybody was fine. The acting was fine. It was, things were, the motion picture art form was much less, it was much less self-aware and, not trying too hard to buck any kind of stereotypes, and entertainment was rife with stereotypes, probably the further back you go. So those things don't really bother me. They're of the time, and I grew up loving movies in the 80s and not thinking a thing of it, and we all laughed at each other and ourselves, and now when I watch the things I loved when I was a kid, I find myself and people my age being unnecessarily self-conscious and almost feeling guilty about the things we enjoyed. But, they're still on streaming, and they're still on, they're still out there for people to watch, and people are still watching them, and I just decide to suspend my judgment of myself and everyone else in a previous generation and just be like, yeah, those are the stereotypes they used. The astronaut, the guy, the slave guy, who's he obviously has sort of an indigenous people kind of feel to him, and the monkey was annoying, but I think monkeys are just annoying. If you love monkeys, then you might find a monkey interesting or cute, but I just think monkeys are annoying. And chimpanzees are almost as annoying unless there's a chimpanzees from Planet of the Apes, because, they were just lovable, because they were really like ape people, and who doesn't love Roddy McDowell? Anyway, I thought the acting was fine. I thought the characters, as few of them as there were, they were fine. I didn't become disinterested or disgusted. I think that the main character guy, in regards to Friday, he did have an arc where he realized, hey, this guy is smart and resourceful, and he started to treat him better and treat him more as an equal, and realized that he had a good friend there. So, there might have been an interesting sequel. Friday Goes to Earth. Anyway, it was fine. I enjoyed it well enough. That's all I'll say. Back to net in D5F.
All right, thank you, Virginia. Next up is Sean, KB9SOK. Sean, your thoughts on characterization and the acting from KE5ICX.
Yeah, this is KB9SOK. Really, Adam West didn't have much of a part in this. Pretty simple. He did fine for the short time he was on there. Yes, Virginia, you are correct. This did come out before Batman. So obviously he did more than Batman. Obviously on to our main character, our hero / astronaut. He was fine. He went through a little bit of a journey, but once again, I don't think this was meant to be a big drama. This was more of an action kind of film. Not that you can't have drama in an action film, because you can. But this is pretty typical for that time. But I thought it was fine. Pretty much what I would have expected. And once again, compared to a lot of the movies that we've seen, have watched over the years about Mars, that was made in the 50s and 60s, I do think this was better than most of them. It was okay. Our character that the scientist on the film, we didn't want to forget him, as Tom pointed out. It reminds me of those old movies you watched in school, or at least when I was in school, and the teacher had to drag out the old projector, and it usually took them 15, 20 minutes to figure out how to get it loaded and get it to watch, and it was usually very dry and very boring, the films, and it was almost comical in this, that it was completely useless to information that was on there. So, I don't think they really needed that, so they could have cut that out, to be quite honest. The monkey, to me, was the worst character in this, very annoying. just wasn't for me either. Not that it wasn't what supposed to do. It's a monkey. Then, obviously Friday, it was kind of stereotypic, but I agree with Virginia. It's just what they did back then, and so it didn't really bother me because of when it was made. I don't think that was a big deal. But I thought his acting was good too. I mean, for what he had to do, very simple, kind of plot. So therefore, he didn't really need a lot of deep emotional stuff into it. But then, I agree. It'd be nice to learn more about these aliens. We know nothing about them, so you really can't really think of them as a character, even. Really, we only really had 3 real characters in this. Not a whole lot to go over there, so I won't drag it out. Back to net, KB9SOK.
Thanks, Deshaun. Next up is David, AC5DL. David, your comments on characterization from and or acting from KE5ICX.
K5ICX AC5DL. Well, in terms of characterization, I thought it was interesting, first of all, there's Colonel Dan McCready, and he's a USAP guy, so am I, but anyhow, he goes on later on to play Adam West, and, Batman as Adam West, and I don't know, he didn't have much time in the movie, so maybe he was busy trying to practice being Batman, but there's a commander, Christopher Kit Draper, who's the Navy guy, and he's kind of interesting. I thought in terms of characterization, one of the weirdest things with him was that they show him later on creating these weird bagpipes, and he's going around playing these bagpipes, and of course they sound awful, and being a Navy guy, I would think that he would be playing Anchors Away, but instead he's always playing the song Dixie, which is weird, it's always Dixie. Now, then we get to Friday, and Friday was Victor London, and if you read about him, he actually went on to play one of the first Klingons in the Star Trek original series, Errand of Mercy. He's actually one of the first appearances of a Klingon in the whole Star Trek series. And then we get to Mona, and if you read the Wikipedia story about this whole movie, about Mona, according to Paul Manty, he says that Mona was played actually by a male monkey, and the male monkey's name was Barney. Let's see, Barney the Woolly Monkey. So he played Mona and had to wear a fur-covered diaper during the movie. So maybe that's why Mona was not exactly happy playing the movie and was screeching all the time, making everyone upset. But anyhow, I don't think the characterization was all that bad, everything considering. I mean, if you think about it, where else can you find a sci-fi movie that has a monkey who wears a spacesuit, an astronaut who can transform into Batman, and a day laborer named Friday who can transform into a Klingon? So anyhow, that's all I got to say about characterization. So back to net, AC5DL.
Oh, thank you, David. And yes, only you could make that kind of an observation and get away with it. Well, you stole part of my thunder because I looked up Victor London like you did, and I was actually surprised at how many things I'd seen him in and did not recognize him in. The first one was exactly right. On Star Trek, he was in Error and Mercy. He was actually the first Klingon on scene. He was not the main actor in that. He was just one of the Klingons, but he was the first to appear on screen and that was the first episode to introduce the Klingons. He also appeared as one of the lobstermen, the head of the lobstermen in one of my favorites, Voyage to the Bottom of the Sea. That's actually a fun episode. He looks ridiculous in the thing, but it's sufficiently menacing. And he also was of Psy-Cop. He looked vaguely familiar to me from Babylon 5, and there was a picture of him, and I went, yeah, that's him. And then he also appeared, I think because of the facial features, he's kind of that ethnic native look thing going on, I guess. And he was in an episode of, are you ready for this? Batman, with Cliff Robertson as Shame, I think. And he played the Indian sidekick, if I can say that. But at any rate, he was in it for that. And of course, in movies and things, he played Native American when you could get away with that. So, but he has a angular nose facial feature that would work, and that's probably why he got the role of Imagined for Friday as a native. Anyway, that was that. Overall, since we only have the three characters and, of course, the black and white doctor telling us in very dry detail about how to survive on Mars and not giving us a lot of really good details, was okay, I guess. And the monkey. The minky. No, I don't have anything to add for either one of them. I think overall the performances were adequate. I agree with everyone. I think to a certain degree that there just wasn't enough script, there wasn't enough going on, and it was stretched out. So I think the monkey got on our nerves because that was padding in this story, and it didn't add a lot. And the other thing too, and I'll jump to special effects a little bit only with this, is that when you're watching this and watching their reactions, the actors' reactions, they're seeing the same things over and over and over again as we did. The same top of the hill being blown up, the same hole being blown into the ground, and the same cave being filled in with the explosions over and over again, and in the same order over and over again, which is a bit disconcerting. At least, I don't know, reverse the image or something to break it up, because it sure as heck looks like the same thing over and over again. And a 7-year-old could see that and notice it almost immediately. So that would be my argument against the only problem with it. And that probably added to the film being just a tad too long. All right, well, we are at midnight. We got one more minute till midnight, but I'll go ahead and open it up for anybody who would like to make any additional comments before we close tonight. Please come to your call sign now, and I'll take you in order. Nothing? No one has any final comments?
Elvis has left the building.
Okay, well, wore everybody out. That's perfectly fine. I'll give you next week's movie, and it is, I forgot the name of it. Hold on. Oh, here it is. Oh, you're going to love this one, folks. From 1988. The movie is called Moontrap. Moontrap, with Walter Koenig. Yes, the Russian from Star Trek. And I have a personal, not my personal story, but I know somebody who actually worked on the film. I will tell you that story when it comes up. So I think you'll find it quite amusing. So next week's movie is Moontrap from 1988. If anybody's listening, I gave up on Facebook. I had a lot of problems with them. So if you'd like additional information or where you can see the movie, just send me an email at my callsign at yahoo.com. That's KE5ICX@yahoo.com. I can also put you on the list as well so that you get the email info on whatever the movie is going to be. So there you have it. That's it. We'll see you all next week. I'm going to go watch Welcome Stranger, which is an episode of Lost in Space. It's the last of the good episodes. This is episode number 6. After this, it's all downhill. So if you want to see Lost in Space as a dramatic series, this is the last one you'll see where it before it fell apart into parody. So see you all later. Have a good evening. This is KE5ICX. Now clear.